These are 5 mistakes killing your cleaning business. So no matter how good your marketing is, no matter how good your service quality, if you're not addressing the following 5 key points, it will make growing your cleaning business more difficult, and it will also mean that you generate less profit as the business owner. So let's jump straight into it. So firstly is not picking up all your calls. So this is perhaps a really obvious thing to point out, but you will be amazed at how many cleaning businesses out there do not pick up all the inbound calls into their business. So if you Google the top 10, 20 competitors in your location, I'd be amazed if even 50% of those companies are picking up the calls. So you as the business owner need to make sure that every inbound call that is coming into your business is getting picked up. If it's not being picked up, let's say you're on the other line, you need to make sure you have a professional sounding voicemail on the other side. Obviously, if you're so busy that lots of these calls are going to voicemail, then you need to come up with another option. Maybe you need to bring on a virtual assistant or another office manager to help with these inbound calls. Because with inbound calls, particularly with new client inquiries, the phone leads, the phone inquiries, the very best quality leads that you can get. You're far more likely to close these leads when clients are calling you in rather than if they're messaging you or sending you an email. So every time you miss a call from one of these inbound clients, you are really leaving money on the table. So inbound calls are really important, but on a related note, we need to make sure if people are messaging us, if they're sending a quote request and maybe sending us an email, we need to get on these new inquiries as quickly as possible. We don't want to leave a quote request outstanding for an hour or 2 hours or even longer, because what happens is that these clients will essentially contact all the cleaning companies in their area, and they'll keep contacting them others until they get a response from someone and they're happy to go with that person. So the longer it takes for you to get back to that person, the less likely you are to get that client engaged, the less likely you are to book that client. And the reason why this point is so important is because, as I talk about in so many of my other videos on the channel, recurring clients is really the way that you grow your business, in my opinion. So if you are missing a call and that client is potentially looking for a weekly service for a large property, you are leaving many thousands of dollars on the table potentially. So make sure that you pick up all your inbound calls, get back to all new people by email quickly, and importantly, if you do not connect with that person after following up with them, you need to make sure that you follow up every single day. You need to be sending them text messages, leaving voicemails, sending them emails. So the follow-up is really important, because this is another mistake that I see often, that people do not follow up on these new leads sufficiently. They'll follow up once or twice and then give up on that lead. That is a big mistake, and you want to avoid that. So point 2 is focusing on online booking. And certainly this is a mistake when I set up my own cleaning business 10 years ago. When I talk about online booking, this is basically having a booking form on your website where people can go in and select a specific day, a time slot, day of the week, time of the day, and book a cleaning there and then. They enter their credit card details to confirm that booking. So, that client doesn't need to speak to anyone. They can just go to the website and book. And this is something that I thought would work really, really well. This would mean that your website would be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People could book cleans there and then. There are people during the day that can't speak to cleaning company, couldn't give us a call. They're busy, they're doing other things. So online booking represented a really great way of doing things. But in actual fact, having A/B tested this and put many thousands of dollars into online booking versus what I call lead capture, the lead capture approach is what I strongly recommend for people. So what the lead capture does is essentially it's a small contact form on your website. It allows the client to fill in details like the size of the property, the location, and it gets them to leave their phone number and their email address, and the call to action is to request a quote. So a client would fill out the form to request a quote. That would come into the cleaning business owner, and then the business owner or the virtual assistant would then call that person back to then answer any questions and hopefully close that client over the phone. So The reason why I believe, or I am sure, that a lead capture approach is preferential to an online booking is just the numbers that I've seen in my own business and with these other clients that we work with on the marketing side. So to give you a few numbers to look at, if we set up an ad campaign and we got 100 clicks on our ad and they got taken to a landing page with an online booking form on there, we would expect on average between 1 to 2 bookings, so a 1 to 2% conversion rate. If we are sending that same 100 ad clicks to another landing page with a lead form on there, we would expect a far higher number of people to fill out the form. The big difference between the two forms is obviously there's no requirement to put in a bank card or a credit card in there. So if you're running a good ad campaign, you could expect about 20% of ad clicks to convert to leads. So we get 20 lead forms, and out of those lead forms, let's say 25% of those close to booked clients. So we'd be getting, in the region of 5 booked clients. So 5 booked clients with the lead capture approach versus 1 to 2 clients with the online booking approach. This represents a huge percentage difference, over 2 times better ROI using a lead capture approach. Obviously, the lead capture approach is a more labor-intensive funnel. Obviously, the lead comes in and then the VA needs to call, and then there's a bit of management, whereas an online booking, you don't really need to do too much. But in my view, because the difference in the ROI is so great, it really makes sense to go down the lead capture route. So the second mistake that I see is focusing on an online booking form on your website. In fact, you want to go down the lead capture approach route. So if you're finding the content in the video helpful, please like and subscribe. It really, really helps me. Let's jump on to point 3. So point 3 is the high churn rate with your clients. So if you are running a house cleaning business and a high proportion of your clients are what I call recurring clients, these are homeowners getting you to clean your house every week or every 2 weeks or every month. These are what I call the recurring clients. And as I talk about extensively on the channel, I think that if you can grow your recurring clients, this is a great way to really grow your cleaning business profitably. So hopefully, if you get a recurring client booked in and you are cleaning for that client and they're happy, they should stay with you for many months or many years. So, if you're running a high quality business and the cleaning standards are high and the clients are happy, they should be asking you to clean for them next month and the following month. So hopefully your recurring client base will grow with time. However, as we know, clients can cancel. Clients cancel for a number of reasons. Some maybe are moving out of state, or maybe some are, a bit tighter with their budget, so they're having to cancel. There'll be others which are canceling because of quality issues. Obviously, we want to try and minimize those quality issues as much as possible. So we can't do a huge amount with the first 2 reasons, people moving out, or maybe the budget side. Maybe we can offer a discount, but we don't want to discount our services too much. But really where the churn rate comes in is that the churn rate, your monthly churn rate, looks at how many clients did you have at the start of the month, how many recurring clients, and how many clients left over the course of the month. So let's say you had 100 recurring clients at the beginning of the month, and then by the end of that month, 10 had left. Your churn rate for that month would be 10 divided by 100, 10%. And actually 10% would be a high number, really too high. The number that you really want to aim for is a 5% churn rate or lower. So that would mean 5 clients are leaving each month. Obviously, if those are leaving, those 5 are cancelling because of non-quality issues, that's much better than if 5 are cancelling for quality issues. But the reason why tracking this monthly churn rate is important is that as you grow the business, let's say you're going from 100 clients and you want to go to 200 clients, you have the same churn rate. So 10% churn rate on 100 clients would mean 10 are leaving every month. At 200, you are seeing that 20 are leaving each month. There's been no difference in quality. Your churn rate is the same. But why this is important is because with your marketing, to grow your business from 200 clients up, you need to find at least 20 clients to replace those that have churned off or cancelled, and to have more in addition to the 20 to grow your business. So if you have the same churn rate and you're growing your recurring client business, it just naturally means there are more and more clients leaving every month. So we need to try to minimize this churn rate as much as possible, because say at 200 clients, rather than having a 10% churn rate, which would mean 20 are leaving a month, let's say we had a 5%. So that means only 10 are leaving each month. So actually we don't need to find as many clients in total over the course of that month to replace those that have been lost. So we're far more likely to grow the business. So a big mistake I see with with many cleaning companies is that you find that the quality is really variable. Maybe they've got a churn rate in the 10% range, and what you find is that they'll be able to grow quite nicely at the beginning, but as they grow, it gets harder and harder and harder because this churn rate is just cancelling too many recurring clients, and they're not finding enough clients to replace those that have been lost. So point 4 is on a related note. So it's a high churn rate with your cleaner. Your cleaners themselves. So in exactly the same way with the clients, you'll get some cleaners leaving each month. You'll get some leaving, moving out of town. Maybe some are leaving to get a job in a different industry, or some have left to go to another cleaning company, which obviously you want to avoid if they're a really, really good cleaner. So the numbers will be smaller. You'll generally have more clients than you have cleaners. So particularly in the early stages of your business, you'll only have a handful of clients. So this churn rate number, how many leave over the course of the month compared to how many you have at the start, is not going to be particularly meaningful. But as you get more cleaners on your books, let's say you get 20 cleaners, 30, 40, 50 cleaners, then this number also becomes important. So you need to be tracking your churn rate with your clients. But also a big mistake that I see with the sort of high 6-figure, 7-figure businesses is they're not tracking the churn rate of their cleaners either. So, typically this industry has a very, very high churn rate with the workforce. So cleaners can typically leave, change jobs after 3 to 6 months, which is a really, really high churn rate. So if this is happening, you as the business may be getting lots and lots of great client lead volume through your marketing. Maybe your marketing is going really well, your SEO and your Google ads are all really dialed in. But because your cleaners are leaving, you're just not getting enough capacity to take advantage of all these client leads, to book them in, booked clients, and to generate that revenue and profit. So we need to make sure that we are tracking our churn rate of our cleaners. This is another big mistake I see. If the churn rate is too high, we need to try and address that. So there are lots of potential reasons why we may get high churn rates with our workforce. Often the first place people go to is pay rate. We obviously need to make sure that we're paying a good rate, and I've always said that you want to be paying towards the top end of the market to be attracting the very best quality of cleaners. So we need to make sure that the pay rate is high, because if the pay rate is low when we're doing all the other things I'm going to talk about in the next minute or two, it doesn't really make sense. But if we have a high pay rate, then we can do other things to engage the workforce more. Something that often gets talked about across various industries is that people don't really leave their jobs because of the pay rate. It's often because they're people they're working with. Maybe they don't like their boss or their co-workers or things like that. So we can do things to engage with them, and really this is to show them that we value them, we're interested in them as people. They're just not another cleaner within our business. So there are various things that I used to do in my business, particularly early on. I would take the cleaners out for coffee every month or a couple of months. We could have a chat just about obviously their clients, things that we can do to help, but also be just general chat about life and finding out what they're up to and building a bit of a relationship there. Because if you get an engaged workforce, they're going to stay with you longer, they'll do a better job, and if they've got similar like-minded friends and family who are also looking for cleaning jobs, they'll probably refer them to your business as well. So this is a great way to reduce the churn rate of your cleaning workforce. If you're in that 3 to 6 month churn rate, you need to address this very, very quickly. Make sure your pay rates are high, but also be doing these other things. The final idea that is worth sort of just sharing with you is we used to do a cleaner of the month competition. So our top rated cleaner over the course of the month, by client ratings, would get some sort of award, a present, a bottle of champagne, chocolates, tickets to the cinema, those types of things. And it's just something in addition that we did to show that, we really cared for our cleaners. So number 4, high churn rate of your cleaner base. Absolutely need to avoid that. And then 5th is underpricing your services. So this is an extremely common issue that I come across with cleaning businesses, particularly early on, because one of the great things about the cleaning industry and running a house cleaning business is there's not a huge amount of cost, to be completely honest. If you're actually going in and doing the cleaning yourself, maybe you need some cleaning products, some cloths and things like that. You obviously need to drive to the person's property as well. But outside of that, there's not a huge amount of cost. So a lot of that revenue can simply come to you as the cleaning business owner, particularly if you're doing the cleaning yourself. But the issue is as you grow your business, if you have a goal to have a bigger business with other cleaners working for you, you'll find that your cost base quickly increases. As you bring on a new cleaner, typically 50% of the revenue will go straight away to the cleaner to pay for the cleaner doing the work themselves. But then you'll have other costs. You'll be spending more money on marketing. You'll be running recruitment ads on Indeed. Maybe you've got a virtual assistant to help manage your calls. So there'll be other additional costs that come in as you grow your business. So the reason why underpricing is such a big issue is that if you charge a low price at the very beginning, you are probably making quite good money, particularly when you look at a profit margin perspective. However, as you grow the business, because there are these additional costs that are coming in, you'll find that your profit margins, what you're receiving as the business owner after paying your other cleaners, after paying your marketing, recruitment, and all these other costs, quickly shrinks down. And I see this very often, that you'll get cleaning businesses that are doing 10, 20K a month in revenue, but making very little profit because they have underpriced their services. So we need to make sure that we price our services sufficiently high at the beginning and maintain that as we grow the business, to make sure that there's enough profit margin in there to reinvest in marketing and recruitment and all these other things, but also to pay as well as the cleaning business owner. So in this next video, I'm going to just run through how I would price cleaning services to make sure you never get into this position of underpricing, some of the things that you need to focus on to justify that high price. And once you've got that in place, this will really set you up as you grow your business. So I'll see you on the next one.